Okay, so chapter 13, statistics 3. So some of the stuff you've done last year in first year when you were doing presenting data. So I'm just going to revise over what you had done last year and we'll do a few questions based on that today. Okay, you're going to take out your notes copy now and you're going to copy this diagram here and you're going to call it line plots. Okay, and you're going to take down a series of notes that I have also taken down on my copy. So taking out your notes copy now, please. Okay, and I'm just going to bring this into focus. So what I need you to take down is obviously chapter 13, presenting data. We're looking at line plots right now, and each item, so that means each person or each date or each degrees or temperature in this case, is represented with a dot. Okay, when it comes to doing line plots, you really need to make sure that you draw the line with a ruler. Generally, you use pencil to do this. I simply used pen today just because the pencil wasn't coming out all that clear, but you should use pencil when you're doing any diagram. Okay, so there was one day that had 19 degrees, there was 2 days that had 22 degrees and so on. But when you see a display of information like that, it is important that you're able to read the diagram, okay? From this diagram, you should be able to pick out the range, the mode, an outlier, and clusters. You'll be also able to calculate the mean and the median from this. But what you need to do first, obviously, you should be able to calculate the range, mode, outlier, and clusters straight away. Based on that, the range. You have learned already that the range is the biggest minus the smallest. It's always good practice to write out the formula, biggest minus the smallest. But obviously the biggest temperature on this is 31. The smallest temperature on this is 19. And that's obviously degrees Celsius. You don't have to put that in, but yeah. Therefore the range is 12 degrees. Okay. Next, the mode, that's the temperature in this case that is the most frequent. So looking at the dots, it's the one that has the most dots, and that's 28 degrees. Okay, that's 28 degrees Celsius. An outlier is something that will affect the data or skew the data. It would be a temperature in this case that isn't within where most of the other information is. So it's anything out to the sides. Okay, so it could be anything bigger or anything smaller in the cluster of information. And that is 19 degrees. Everything else is really within the range of 22 and 31, but 19 is a good bit smaller in temperature. You might be asked, where is the clustered information? Well, the cluster is a big group together. And obviously 19 is not part of that. There's a gap between 22 and 24, so 22 is not part of it. The cluster is where it starts and then when it actually stops being big numbers. So like 30 and 31 aren't big numbers. So the cluster is between essentially 25 and 29, or you could say between 24 and 29, okay? Anything in between there. So the cluster, I'm going to say, is between 25 degrees and 29 degrees. That's where the most information is. Okay, you would be able to calculate the mean and the median from this as well. The mean, you'd add up 19 and 22 and 22 and 24 and 24 and so on. You'd add up all the numbers and divide by the total amount of temperatures or days that were given. Okay, and that's line plots. There's nothing tricky about them. Okay, it's just picking out the information from it. What outliers are, what the mode would be, the range, what bits are clustered, and you'll be able to see that directly from the diagram. Bar charts you've dealt with before, and a lot of you have used them in your CBA, so you're familiar with them. Okay, bar charts need to be the same width and need to have narrow gaps equal in width as well. So you'll see from most of the diagrams that are given on this topic, you can see that there's a narrow gap and then the bars actually start to happen. There's a gap in between each bar. You can see that both sides are labelled. Now, if you'd like, you can, on your notes copy that you're writing into at the moment, you can draw out the bar chart and you can just add in the important pieces of information. Now, some of the information I got from the body of text just above this about bar charts, but some of it isn't there. The stuff that isn't there I've written in red, and it's really important. We will come back to it again when we do chapter 1 of statistics when you come back into school. But there are different types of data and different ways that you need to show the different types of data. So when you have discrete data, and discrete data is data that has positive whole numbers. When you have positive whole numbers and it's not doing a range of information, you will draw a bar chart to show that information. So it shows discrete data, and that's data with positive whole numbers in it. A bar chart is a good way to show that information. Okay, they're a simple and effective way of displaying data. Okay, the heights or lengths of the bars represent the frequency. So just going back to a bar chart. So the heights, sometimes these bar charts can be put on their side so that it'll be a width in that case, but they represent the number of people, so frequencies. So in that case, there was 14 people that had 7 text messages. There was 6 people that had 4 text messages, and so on. So it represents the frequency. The 6, the 8, the 10 usually go on the left-hand side. Now, it is really important that you label also. Okay, so label your diagram. That means you have to label both the X and the Y axis. Now, we're just going to concentrate on the line plot and the bar charts today. Next week we'll be looking at pie charts, and pie charts are a little bit more complicated to draw out and also to input information into them. So we'll spend a little bit of time on that next week. But other than that, besides histograms, there really isn't much more to this chapter. Stem and leaf maybe. Okay, if you have taken down, obviously, what a line plot is into your notes copy, and you've done the bar chart with the relevant notes, today you're just going to do a few questions. On the video here at the moment, I'm just going to talk you through question 1, just so people know what you're doing. So when it comes to doing the classwork today, that you'll be able to hit the ground running. So the line plot below illustrates the number of goals scored per match by a hockey team. So the goals scored, there was 3 teams, there was 3 teams that scored no goals. There was 5 teams that scored 1 goal, and so on. How many matches have the team played? Well, to figure out that, if you just count up the number of dots, you'll get that. So there's 3 and 5 and 4 and 2 and 1. You can grab your calculator and add them in, or you can just add them together. So there's 15. So 3 and 5 is 8, and the 2 is 10. 14, 15 is 15 in total. Which number of goals scored is the mode? That's the most frequent. So that's the highest number of dots, and the mode is 1 goal. What is the range of the number of goals scored? So it ranges from 5 to 0. So 5 minus 0 is 5 goals. And then what percentage of their matches were scoreless? So in order to get a percentage, you put the number over the total and multiply by 100 over 1. So no goals was 3 goals out of 15. And then make it a percentage, which means multiply by 100 over 1, which will be 20%. Okay, so that is question 1 done, and that's how you would actually complete it. Today in class, I'm just going to write down what classwork I would like you to do. So you're back to your normal copy now. So you're going to go to page 299. We're going to do questions 2, 4, 5 and 6. Okay. With these, actually, there's nothing that's asking you to draw out a diagram, which is nice. So it shouldn't take you too long to complete these. So your questions are 2, 4, 5 and 6. If you finish early, you can do 7. But we'll be moving on to pie charts then next week. Okay, so I'll see you in the live class. You're doing page 299, questions 2, 4, 5 and 6.